X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. Hi, Adam. Hi, how are you today? Hey, this is a fun Monday morning for everyone to wake up. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I hope you enjoyed your sugary cereal and your cartoons this Saturday.
Yeah, you woke up, you plopped down in front of the TV, you caught your favorite new episodes of oh wait, they don't do that anymore.
They don't. Hey, all TV is on the internet now, and it's all on Netflix. And that Netflix and Disney Plus are the only things children watch. And YouTube, which is less formal cartoons and more surrealist propaganda from Eastern Bloc countries.
People unboxing toys and promoting beauty products.
Y'all,
it's a whole
y'all,
new world.
If you don't have kids, and more power to you if you don't, and you've not left a kid unsupervised with YouTube, 20 minutes, you had to take a shower. We've all been there. I don't think you should do this frequently. I do think you should experience it once. Just letting a child go down a YouTube hole in like a half hour and just see what weird stuff comes out the other side, because it's legitimately not like upsetting, disturbing, but how weird things get in that short of a period of time. Easily.
Like my daughter started asking for a what are the things you put on the back of an iPhone? A pop?
Poppets things?
Yeah,
I don't know. I have man-sized hands, so I don't use one.
But with a character from a YouTube show that I was like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. And then she's like, well, it's on this person's channel. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. So
Adam, do you not keep up with the latest YouTube trends?
I'm trying to as a responsible parent, but man, it is confusing. I liked the days where I could just turn on my TV and watch my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Everyone
wants the days where they could just turn on their TV and watch their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But they don't make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles anymore, I don't think. I just don't really watch children's television. I actually think they recently had a series, and like John Ralphio was one of them.
Yeah, they keep making them.
It's very popular. Good job, Kevin Eastman.
Well, you know who else has had a lot of animated adventures on television and VHS?
Is it the Transformers? Are we talking about Transformers this episode?
No.
Is this the episode we get real into Transformers? Because I could talk about some Lost Light.
No, we're talking about the X-Men. This is an X-Men podcast, Zach.
Right, that's our bit. That's our territory here of the nerdosphere.
Zach, have some pride. Have some pride, okay?
I hate you so much. Yes. We're going to have some pride of the X-Men in the X-Men, because Patreon supporter Matt Smith went on over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, and he said, y'all, listen, I would like you to talk about the X-Men animated special original graphic novel. It came out in 1990, and it's a direct adaptation of the failed pilot Pride of the X-Men. It's written by Danny Fingeroth, and the art is...
it is credited by Marvel Productions. So they don't even mention the animation company at all. So really,
who was the animation company of Pride of the X-Men? It was the G.I. Joe guys, wasn't it?
It was Toei, who did a lot of the G.I. Joe and Transformers artwork. So it does kind of have that similar G.I. Joe feel to it in terms of the character designs. Did you probably didn't encounter Pride of the X-Men at all growing up, right?
No. The X-Men that I encountered growing up was the animated series when I was younger. Like, I know I am younger than you, Adam. They were still playing it on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
We still played X-Men. My friend Dave Newman did have a collection of X-Men toys that I do, in retrospect, think were his older brothers. But we were aware of the X-Men as an entity. However, Pride of the X-Men, what ended up just being for people a VHS and the basis of the Konami X-Men arcade game, where we have definitely legally stolen the music from for this podcast.
It's such an anomaly. It's such an anomaly because it was something that is an artifact of, like, you know, homegrown video stores. Like, you know, there used to be a time even before Blockbuster, if you guys remember that, where you could go to like a corner mom and pop video store and like you could rent Pride of the X-Men, which I just read the Wikipedia entry because, you know, I didn't really remember the history of this and I wanted to know who the animation company was. But apparently the history behind why there's only one of these is because Marvel Studios, the sort of production company around this, was also producing a Saturday morning cartoon around RoboCop, which I guess only lasted for a season. And what they did was they took the animation budget for the last episode of RoboCop and they said, let's do an X-Men because this is going to go huge. Everyone's going to want to watch this show. And then like Marvel Studios, the production company, basically went belly up. And so there was no more money to make anything. And we never saw anything else, which is kind of a shame because Pride of the X-Men is really, I think it's well animated. And it's, aside from a very Australian Wolverine, it's not a terrible introduction to the X-Men.
Hey, do you know who does the voices for both Toad and Lockheed the Dragon in Pride of the X-Men?
No, who?
Frank Welker. You know, the voice of Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo. Also, more importantly, the voice of Scooby-Doo from Scooby-Doo. And Megatron.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's
in
cool.
Soundwave. Garfield, Nibbler. Nibbler from Futurama, by the way.
Okay.
Yes.
The one voice credit I picked up on was that Magneto, it's a great performance, is the same actor who plays the really like mean psychotherapist from Terminator 2 who like locks up Linda Hamilton.
Sure.
He's in like those movies and that's it. But like this is one of his animated credits and I don't know. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a timeline where this got maybe a season pickup because I think it's pretty well done. We should probably talk about what the plot of it is.
Well, hold on. Adam, I feel like I need to address this so that our podcasting audience does not get the wrong impression.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, we're kind of concentrating on the show when we're not talking about the comic.
Oh, no, we're still going to talk about the show for a hot second here. Because I need to point out that actually it's bad, and I'm glad it doesn't exist in any more than these 30 minutes, and I hate it, and I don't think it's good.
Oh, really? At all?
I don't like Pride of the X-Men at all. I think it's poorly animated. I think it's poorly plotted. I think the voice acting is pretty bad. Kitty Pryde sucks. Wolverine sucks.
Wolverine is terrible.
Wolverine's
I
Australian,
gotta disagree
y'all.
with you on the animation, if only because if you put it in the context of everything else that was coming out at the time, it's actually pretty well done. I mean, if you go back, I know we were just talking about Transformers, but like go back and watch 80s Transformers. It's
also
really
bad.
Rough. Like
so. What's tough for me as like growing up when I grew up, the big shows were X-Men and Spider-Man and Batman, which all have like a shift change in quality of animation compared to the stuff that was going out in the 80s. Yep. So even as a kid, it was hard for me to go back to like I could go watch like the 60s Hanna-Barbera stuff. Or I could watch the Looney Tunes reruns that they had on Cartoon Network. But that 80s animation Saturday morning boom stuff always like left a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay.
It was this weird middle ground between like the cartooning that they were doing back in the before times and what I grew up with as a child.
Sure. I just, if you look at, if I can talk about a couple of the individual characters that are animated in ways that you would never see, for instance, on the X-Men animated series, the level of detail that you see in Colossus's armor, or like, they do a really good job of capturing the blue versus the black shadows on Cyclops's costume. And even when he's moving around, you see that shifting. You know what I mean? Like you can tell that this is at the very least a pilot level of 80s animation. You know, like enough money was put into it so that there is that kind of like, you've got an effects budget. So you've got some, lightning, rain, lighting effects going on in certain places. I mean, I have to put it into the context of like the time period. I don't think it stacks up obviously against something like Batman the Animated Series.
No.
But we should also talk about, if we're talking about quality, we have to talk about how weird this graphic novel is that they put out.
We should stop talking about the thing that inspired the graphic novel and just start talking about this dang thing, because animation is one thing, and we could argue that. I'll be real, Adam. You recently rewatched Pride of the X-Men. I've seen it like twice in my life, and I'm just kind of going off memory at this point.
Yeah.
This is not animated. This is bad scans.
This is one of the weirdest X-Men artifacts I think exists. I mean, we've talked about such amazing Marvel graphic novels on this show. We've talked about God Loves, Man Kills, which, no one in their right mind would ever reissue with a new prologue or epilogue.
Especially not using Brett Anderson. Several years past his prime, God bless him.
Have we talked about the New Mutants graphic novel? We have, right?
We've not talked about the New Mutants graphic novel.
All right, but people know it exists. Like, if you go back to the pantheon, the canon, if you will, of Marvel graphic novels, there's really good ones. It is absolutely bizarre that they published in the same, like, large-scale format, I'm looking at it right now, a full-length adaptation where they don't redraw the scenes.
No, this is a cash-in.
Yeah.
That's all this is.
Tell our listeners what you're looking at here when you look at these panels, because it's astounding that they published this.
So, the fact that Danny Fingeroth is the writer on this,
quote unquote,
actually makes a lot of sense, because he's an editor for the most part. I won't say for the most part, but he has a long history of editing. And this is essentially taking stills from the animation, poorly scanned stills, like poorly captured. It's bad. There's a lot of artifacting. Like they didn't even get the original cells or anything like this.
No,
it's straight up. This is they like somehow whatever you did to screen capture things back in 1990, they did that.
Can I make a guess as to how
I would love
this?
to. I don't know.
Here's what I think they did, because if you there's obviously, you mentioned artifacts. There's obviously certain visual artifacts that exist, like when you look at an old TV and the way in which it had the lines on it, that you would never see on something like today on a high definition television, right?
Sure.
But in a tube television that you might have in the 80s and the early 90s, this is coming out in 1990, you can actually see in certain panels and stills, you can see those lines going across the panel. And my suspicion is that they literally photographed a television playing back the VHS.
I like to assume they got their best television for it, though. Like, they got the good camera, they got the good TV, and they used that.
Yeah.
But still, especially in an oversized format, it doesn't look good. Fingeroth decides, well, I can't do anything fancy with panels, so we're doing We're doing 6-panel grids, 2 wide, 3 tall. We're gonna mix it up every once in a while. And you can see where he like wants to get fancy with it when he knows, no, this needs a 2-panel splash right here.
Right. Yeah, there's a element where like Wolverine is charging at the camera, and it's just the same shot overlaid 3 times, like playing cards next to each other, and it looks terrible.
I feel like with the right artist, like actually hand drawing that shot and maybe even, putting it through Photoshop just to duplicate it or whatever, that's an effect that could look good, like 3 overlapping panels.
Sure, of course.
Of hand drawn out, like something really coming at you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look good here because this is a picture from a television.
Exactly. So it is really wild.
How's the plot on this one, bud?
I mean, it's like I said, it is an 80s pilot. Like, the idea here is to introduce the X-Men. So Kitty Pryde has come to the X-Mansion, gets introduced to the team through the Danger Room. Magneto has escaped from captivity, and they have to go defeat him. And that's it.
Yeah, he also tries to throw a meteor at the planet.
Yes.
Destroy all life, which isn't great.
No, it's not. It's very Silver Agey. He's joined by the Toad, the Blob, White
Pyro.
Queen. Yes, Pyro, and the Juggernaut. So we get a nice rogues gallery here of villains. And the X-Men, if you, like Zach mentioned, if you've played the side-scroller 2-screen 4-player video game from the 90s, you know who this cast is because it's the same one as the video game. Dazzler,
it's Wolverine, Storm, Dazzler, Colossus, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler almost dies in this one, but then he doesn't, and it's very anticlimactic.
Yes, it gives an opportunity for Kitty Pryde to have that sort of like, oh, I'm scared of Nightcrawler, oh, I care about Nightcrawler moment from the comics, but it's not sold very well.
It's especially not sold well here, where the first thing he says to her is, may I kiss your, and then he's trying to say hand, but it gets cut off. And it's just kind of weird, Kurt. That one, Danny, maybe you could have massaged that line so it's less like reasonable for her to say, oh, gross, don't do that. I'm 14 and you literally just met me.
A little creepy.
I understand Nightcrawler's all swashbuckly and whatever. In the context of the today times, I don't like it. And I'm very sensitive about Kitty Pryde and people being weird about age gap stuff and kissing her.
Yeah. It's weird.
I wonder why.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I blame Christopher Claremont, but that's just fine.
Yeah. We are going to rank this, but I would say that aside from just being like a weird, sort of strange thing from the past, you absolutely do not need to track this down.
You really don't, because it's bad. I almost fell asleep, which means that it's not going to rank very high on our list of every X-Men story of all time, of which we are on the road to 500. We have 408 so far. The number 1 story on our list is the Dark Phoenix Saga. The number 100 story on our list is X Factor 27, Gifts. The number 200 story on our list is Captain America 170 to 175, The Secret Empire, but not that one, the good one actually, where Richard Nixon shoots himself in the head. Number 300 is Daydreamers. Number 400 on our list is X-Men 100th Anniversary Special. Haven't thought about that one in a while. That one's bad. Number 408 is the Draco. Also bad. I don't even know where to start with this one.
All right. Can I make a recommendation?
I'd like to hear your recommendation.
Because there's this certain magical moment where this list goes from like poor quality to like we're were offended by
Sure.
by just how much of a mess it is. And I feel like it's somewhere around where you have highlighted, which is at the Shatterstar saga at 386.
Oh, I had just clicked something.
But
I had not highlighted anything, my dude, but yes.
You're clicking in the right place, though. I feel like we're on a very similar page as like that Roy Thomas Marvel Superheroes special 6 to 8.
It's very similar to that.
Right? Like very poor quality, very poor production value, like doesn't need to exist. So, but it's not offending me in a way that, like we go down to 391 and we see X Factor 39 to 40,
Hey, I just reread all of Peter David's X Factor recently because I hate myself. And I got back to those issues. Yeah, still bad. Hey guys, Peter X-Men's David Factor is
not great.
Yeah, guys, it's worse than you remember it. Because I think everyone remembers it as like having some really strong moments and then having some weak stuff that they've kind of put to the back of their mind. Hey, I'm here to tell you as your friend and someone who was also upset when he realized this, the good parts aren't as good as you remember, and the bad parts are a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah, we may need to revisit some of our rankings on those because I feel like at least the beginning of it, I think we, said some pretty nice things about it.
I still think those first 6 issues, while they aren't perfect, are probably the strongest part of his run.
Yes.
I would stand by that. I think, and this is off topic, I think the first 25-ish issues, while they have a few warts that I would rather not be there, still hold together as like a pretty good run of comics. Like that's a good 2-year run on a book.
Sure.
He was then on the book for several more years, and it gets progressively worse.
Mm-hmm.
There is a shift of editorial at a couple of points, and you can tell which editors were reining him in and which ones gave him free reign to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You can mark your clock by it, because the moment things go off rails, there was a different editorial team. And then they get pulled back in, and it was a different editorial team. Wild to see. Anyway, not what we were talking about. I do think this is better than Multiple Birth. Not as good as Apocalypse the 12 at 387.
Okay. Better or worse than the first time that the Avengers and the X-Men get together? X-Men 43 to 45.
I want to say it is worse than that and worse than Eve of Destruction, which is a bad story that does have one very, very good page in it.
Yes.
Which is one more good page than this book has in it.
Is it better than X-Force Shatterstar at 390?
Shatterstar also has only one good page, but I would put this between those because the bad pages at Shatterstar are pretty bad.
All right, then this is going to be our new 390, the X-Men animation special.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell people that they should track this bad boy down.
This
but
is for completists only.
Listen, if you see this in a long box, pick it up. It's a weird thing, and I love owning weird things from long boxes. Love it. It's my favorite. I've never found like a valuable issue in a long box. Like I may have found a issue of Uncanny that goes for a little bit more than cover price. I have found some weird stuff, and I'm very happy with the weird stuff I found long box
I like
diving.
to find the weird stuff.
Hey, you want to know about something else that's weird, Adam?
What is so weird, Zach?
It's X-Men, the manga 1 through 4. The first 2 are written and drawn by Hiroshi Hikagi, and the second 2 by Koji Yasumi, with translations by Matsumi Matsuda on both of them. And this is a direct adaptation. Well, I don't want to say direct, because it's less direct than, say, the animation special.
It's not a literal adaptation.
Well, I think it is
gets-
literally what an adaptation is, but it's like an
Yes.
adaptation in the traditional sense of it
Yes.
adapted something.
Yes, it is an actual adaptation as opposed to just screenshots. Yeah, this is a really fun 4-issue take on, I think, a pair of episodes of television that X-Men fans have watched probably on repeat forever, whether it be on reruns, whether it be on the VHS copy you made with your VCR, whether you got a copy at Pizza Hut. But Night of the Sentinels, which is, a similar premise to Pride of the X-Men, except no Kitty Pryde this time. We've got Jubilee encountering Sentinels at the mall. And
I'm going to be
the
honest.
X-Men.
There's an edit of one of the panels here that I had forgotten was an edit for the longest time, because one of the panels that circulates online from this is Professor Xavier sitting there in front of his computer screen and saying, "This is Jubilee. She is adorable." And I thought for a second that was the real one, and I was a little disappointed that it's not. Also, mangakata Hiroshi Higuchi has stopped drawing manga pretty much right after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does landscapes and portraits and stuff.
Wow.
They're nice. They look like portraits and landscapes. That's all.
Okay. I love I think the art. Which 2 issues do you think the art is stronger in? Because we should note that this is being done in a very sort of cartoony, traditional manga style.
This is 90s. This is very 90s manga.
Yeah, very big eyes. We've got the action lines everywhere. A lot of the speech bubbles look like they're kind of explosions. It's using a lot of the style conventions.
Well, to be fair, this was originally a Japanese manga adaptation of the animated series that got circulated through Japan and then got imported to the US in 98, which tells you why there's that 5-year gap between the animated series comes out. Now we have this weird adaptation of it. I think I like both artists on this, honestly. I've read the whole thing. This adapts almost this run in English adapts almost the entire first season up until the Days of Future Past issues. It doesn't adapt those, and that's very disappointing. The Colossus, that episode where Colossus shows up?
Yeah.
That's done as a cartoon manga, like Looney Tunes inspired, and it rules, actually. It's great. I like both artists on this. I do think Hiroshi Higuchi's work on the first 2 I lean towards a bit more. He does some real interesting paneling.
Yeah.
Does some really cool dynamic stuff with that. Though I think the Koji Yasui gets more to do in the second 2 issues since they're bigger fights.
Yeah, a lot more action, especially in the 4th issue. Where they're in their final battle with the Sentinels and combining their powers, and it has this explosive action feel to it that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually really like these. It's not a mind-blowing story. It's an adaptation of Night of the Sentinels. You've seen it. Everyone goes, Jubilee gets captured, they go rescue her, Beast gets sent to prison, Morph dies, Wolverine punches Cyclops, goes after him again, they save Beast, and he says, actually, I'm going to chill here for a bit, folks, and that's it.
Yeah. But the way... When I first started the first issue, I didn't realize that it was an adaptation of the animated series, and I was kind of thrown by that, because then I was like, all right, is this a strict adaptation? And what's fun about it is that it's not. It takes liberties with the dialogue. It takes liberties with the way scenes play out and the way that the action happens, and it's fun. The way in which the characters are illustrated, the way that they move, the way that they interact, there's a lot of liberties taken. We're not I don't know. I'm just thinking about like there's one shot as Jubilee is a delight here. The way she's
Amazing.
illustrated
Love
throughout, and using her as the POV character, but they use both artists are kind of playing around with like little cartoony tools, and it's just, I don't know. Like I like the visual language of this, and it makes it fun to read.
I totally agree. The art is a standout, and I think honestly, being an adaptation of story that most X-Men fans have memorized just from osmosis, makes it even more interesting because you're getting this thing that you know the beats, you know what's going to happen, but it's been translated there and back into something that is transformative. It's not different. It's still recognizably X-Men the Animated Series episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But it's done in a engaging way that it's like what you really wanted Grand Design to be, and it wasn't really that.
Okay. I can see that comparison.
It's a remix. It's a remix of the story, and it's a remix brought in from a manga perspective and a legitimate manga perspective instead of C.B. Cebulski drawing what he thinks or writing what he thinks manga sounds like. Which, look, I'm not picking on the Akira Yoshida thing, though. That's pretty bad that he did that. I'm picking on the fact that he did that under the name C.B. Cebulski and put a bunch of things called X-Men Mangaverse out there, and they aren't good.
This is what I would love to track down now. Is an actual like manga format of the book, because this was published in the US as individual issues, like full size comic style issues, and it doesn't seem suited to that format.
I think they make it work. They blow it up enough that it lands right. I think it would be, listen, I bet if Marvel got these back and like put out like, hey y'all, here's this 4-volume manga of the X-Men from the 90s. I bet that would do decent money. It's already translated.
I bet.
They've already got it. That's just a reprint thing. Throw that in a digest size and send it out there.
Well, and I was going to say that because that was one thing that really struck me as I was reading it, is that I think kids would love this.
Kids would love this. It's so... Kids love the X-Men animated series.
Exactly.
They do.
This takes that storytelling and adds an added component of, like you mentioned, Wolverine punching Cyclops. We've all seen this a million times as an animated GIF, and when it happens in the book, it's this very like 3-dimensional cartoon of like, what's the sound effect? It's like ka-thwam, and
it's a massive sucker punch. It's
exactly
good. Because he's going to punch Cyclops, but he gets there and he punches Cyclops.
Yeah. It has an energy to it. He doesn't
steal Cyclops' car and rip off the top and said, tell Scott I made him a convertible. We don't get that. It's already a Jeep and it's his Jeep. But I love it still.
Yeah.
It's so cool, again, to see this stuff literally taken from the original animated series, having an artist translate that into a manga for the Japanese audience, and then having someone translate that back into English. Mm-hmm. It's so cool.
Yeah. I think it would be really great to see a reprint of this. It is in black and white. I don't see any real need to add any color to it whatsoever, because the way in which it's illustrated, it just works very, very good. The dynamics there in the line work, in the tones that they use. So that you don't have to do anything to this. And I think it would be a really great intro for younger readers into this world that we all really like. And I'm very surprised it's not on Unlimited.
I'm not surprised that it's not on Unlimited. I bet Marvel would have to look real hard to find their copies of this, because it was done. I don't know the history of this. I couldn't find anything. Also, I didn't look very hard. But I'm assuming they outsourced this to someone over there in Japan. Mm-hmm. Some publishing house out there, they said, hey, adapt this into a manga, or someone bought the rights and Marvel brought it back over. So I bet it's hard for them to, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they just don't have
The original
what they
art.
need.
Yeah.
But I bet they could. Look, we got some good artists. We could figure something out, Marvel. Hit us up. Just put us in the, as thanks. We did a good thing for X-Men manga maybe in the future. Let's rank this one because it's interesting and kind of good.
It's a lot of fun. So I definitely would recommend it to people to track down. I think it's better than something like at 271 we have X Campus, which is kind of a...
Oh, yeah, it's way better than X Campus, but
Yeah.
X Campus sucks.
It's terrible. It's doing something in a much more fun way. And I think it's a really, for all the reasons that we just said.
I just happened upon number 165, Mr. and Mrs. X, number 1 through 5, Love and Marriage. And I like this better than that, I think, but not a huge amount more. Like, I feel like you also still have to balance that this is a well-done adaptation of the animated special. Like, it's not...
It's light.
It is light. That's
You're
where
gonna
you're
read
at.
it. You're gonna read it real fast. You're gonna enjoy it. It's sort of like this. It's like eating candy. It's gonna put you on a little bit of a sugar high. But I would put it on par with like something fun. Like I know I'm not the biggest fan of this, but like at 156 we have Uncanny 245 Men. It's silly like that.
It is silly like that. I'd probably go a bit lower.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it below that is Rogue. I wouldn't put it ahead of that.
Here's what I'd say. At 163, we have What If the X-Men Had Stayed in Asgard, and I think this works on the whole better than that.
Mm-hmm.
At 161, we've got X-Men 75, Anatomy of a Monster, and that's where we learn all the sad stuff about Maggot, a character who's staring me in the eyes right now. I have framed Maggot art from Joshua Cassara that I look at every day. It's very good, and I do like this piece of art.
I would put it ahead,
but I would put it below it, and then between those is X-Men versus Agents of Atlas. Adam, your thoughts on that?
I think we're hitting. I think we agreed when we read that was pretty fun. Just kind of like a Silver Age-y romp. So I would put this ahead of that.
Okay. So this will be our new 162?
Great. Yeah. Folks, do some long box digging. Track them down. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is actually a good series.
Yeah.
This one's pretty good, guys. The next one's different.
I was going to say, so far we've had two pretty, you could see either the direct line or the adaptation line to the source material. But this last one is how many issues are we doing here? 6?
We're doing the first 6. That's what's collected in the first trade of this, and I think it works thematically because all 6 of these issues of X-Men Evolution are 6 one-shots focusing on 1 or 2 members of the cast and how they interact and how they feel between episodes of the show. So it starts out, the first 3 issues are actually before the series begins proper.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see how Professor Xavier started the X-Men, his rivalry with Magneto, how Scott and Jean joined, and then it kind of skips to be like, hey, and also the show's been running for like 2 years at this point, so here's the cast of the show and
Right.
little things that are happening with them. It's written by Devin Grayson, who is like an established like good comic writer. I read some for Titans on recommendation, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's penciled, or I guess I should say all the art is done by Udon Studios, which I actually think is a really smart choice for an adaptation of an animated series because, they're an art house. They are focused on drawing consistently, drawing on model, like making it so that their artists aren't distinguishable from each other, more or less. And I think that really works for this.
To an extent.
I think I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I think you're probably right.
I think we were talking before on the air that, like you grew up watching this show. You loved it. I remember watching the first couple seasons and enjoying the high school premise. If you look at the character design, it's very strong on the show.
Yes.
When we see some of these characters in the way that this art studio is depicting them, sometimes it works. Depends on the character. There are a lot of panels of, especially I'm thinking of Wolverine and I'm thinking of Professor X in particular, where the facial expressions are just weird. Like they kind of look like their faces are sagging in ways that, the way in which they're drawn for the show is very architectural, everybody has these sort of like rectangular edges to them. Whereas, to establish that they have different facial expressions here, sometimes it just does not work depending on the angle of the character, whatever it may be. I don't have an issue with it on the whole. I think it pairs nicely with the way the cartoon is done, but it's not the strongest all the time.
Sure, I think that's fair.
Can I pick on something else here that I just...
You can pick on a lot. I was mean to Pride of the X-Men, let's be fair. So I feel like if someone's mean to me about X-Men Evolution, I need to take that. I need to accept that.
Well, and keep in mind, this is not the show. As Zach mentioned, this is very much an opportunity for them to kind of like... You called it, what, between the raindrops before we got on the air? So it gives them an opportunity to kind of explore some of the relationships that maybe didn't get enough screen time. For example, what is this? The fifth issue is, fifth issue is all about Rogue and Mystique. And
which got a good, of the first season, that first Rogue episode, you should watch. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's the one that holds up pretty good. Also has Destiny and Mystique just as a couple,
as they should be.
As much as a children's show in the early 2000s good. It's like, hey, yeah, these are definitely, wives, and good for them.
Yeah, I think from a production standpoint, the lettering on this drives me nuts. It is all lowercase. I don't know what the deal is with that, and just the letter to bubble ratio, the borders around the letter, there's something about the lettering that just seems very, very, very not my cup of tea.
I did what I was supposed to do with lettering and didn't notice it.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull that up right now on that app and see what you're talking about, because I'm curious.
Yeah, it just doesn't really seem to be professionally done. I mean, it's legible. It's legible. I'm not arguing with that. I just think anything from bubble placement down to how close the bubbles come to the letters, it just drives me nuts.
That was Sharp Fonts Randy Gentile on the letters. I apologize. Oh. And I think I can tell you what the problem is now that I'm looking at it.
Which is?
The font is bad.
Well,
it's not to me, it's not that it's sentence case, because I don't mind that. And that's pretty common for, especially in early 2000s book, and especially a early 2000s book focused on young audiences. If you look at the Malibu line that Marvel did, Runaways, that's got this. But the actual font choice, it's not Comic Sans, but it is close.
Yeah, you know what? I wasn't really looking at this closely enough, but it is a font. Like,
Yeah, bud, this is just a
no wonder
weird
it's
font.
bad. It's not hand-drawn panels. I mean, it's not, the bubbles look like they're not hand-drawn either. So,
Yeah, the bubbles aren't hand drawn, or it doesn't look that way. For
no,
the most
I don't
part.
think so. Like, the
Okay,
tail
yeah,
is-
I'm looking at it. Their standard oval bubble
yeah.
has the exact same contour. Like someone drew this once.
Mm-hmm. And then they made it bigger or smaller.
Yeah, and they're
Wider.
just repeating. They have I'm seeing the same bubble constantly.
Yeah. Anyway, that was something that just visually drove me nuts. In terms of the individual,
That's fair.
Yeah, in terms of the individual stories, I thought they were fine. You know, like I thought the Rogue issue was pretty strong. The 6th issue is all about Spike.
And Mimic's there, which I was not expecting.
What is it?
Mimic is there?
Yes,
Cal Rankin?
yes. Mimic is the adversary in the 6th issue.
He was not in the show at all. He
No.
is wearing his orange shirt with a big M on it, which is real good.
The third? No, is it the 4th issue's which one's the Nightcrawler issue? I think it's the 4th issue.
That'd be the 4th one, yeah.
Yeah,
Where
which
Nightcrawler has body image issues and Kitty, who I actually really like. The Nightcrawler and Kitty relationship on the show is different than in the comics, mostly because Kitty Pryde's pretty different than in the comics. She's not just a small adult in the show. She's like a teenage. She gets coded as like a valley girl in some stuff, which fine. I think her costume in the show's the best costume Kitty Pryde's ever had. But like I get it. They have a great relationship in the show, and it translates really well here because she doesn't fully get why Nightcrawler's not comfortable in his own skin, but she doesn't want to like be a jerk about it. And it could be very easy to write that into, well, why don't you just be yourself, Kurt? I'm myself all the time.
I do take objection to the fact that his English teacher accepts a one-word essay responance.
Did we see that graded? Did we see that graded?
see it
Because I bet the
graded?
teacher was like, why did you just, he gets it. It's framed around an essay prompt about,
Yes. What I am at home that I can't be at school. And
which I think is a weirdly intrusive thing to be assigning to your students personally.
Well, she does have a very responsible response to Kurt's one-word writing, which is just blue, written in what looks like blue crayon. If a teacher gets that response, they might want to, guide that student towards some counseling, and she does try to do that. He reassures her that everything's fine. I think he's going to fail that assignment, though.
Yeah, no, she should say, Kurt, I really do hope everything's good. This isn't what I asked for.
This is garbage writing, Kurt
like
Wagner.
500 words. That's all. A very short essay.
I love how it's also stapled 3 pages. So he just ignored the page count and just like with crayon. Anyway.
Very good. I personally I think the 2nd issue with Cyclops I like a lot, but I'm also an easy mark for Cyclops being sad and having to get his eyes fixed stories.
I think if you are a fan of the TV show, these are worth checking out, and it'll expand sort of the storytelling and the world building of X-Men Evolution. If you
we've only go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you've never watched the show, I think this may be more of a difficult standalone.
I think that's fair to say. I'd also say that I think we've covered 7 of the 9-ish. How many?
Yeah, because we did 9.
7 of
previous.
the 9.
Yep.
Right. The 2 that we have left, I remember being the best issues of the run.
Well, that's good. We could save them for another time.
One's a New Mutants issue, and one of them is a Morlocks issue.
Ooh.
Like they just do the story where Callisto captures Archangel, and I remember that being pretty dope.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Seems
Callisto doesn't show up in the... Does Callisto... Callisto might be in the 4th season.
Seems like
I
an
know
odd
the Morlocks are definitely there in the show at a certain point. I'm speaking out of turn. Because Spike, who's a bad character... Spike's bad. I don't like Spike, actually. He shouldn't just be Storm's nephew. That's weird.
You mean
Spike
like how
does...
Bishop might be Storm's son?
Oh my gosh, yes,
grandson?
shut up. No, we've already said that doesn't work, and also that they can shut up about that.
Oh, I hate that.
Look, it ain't canon. It ain't canon. They heavily implied it, but if you don't make those implications explicit, we can ignore it, and we will.
That's right.
Anyway, where do we have the other X-Men Evolution?
Let's see.
That's at 260, and I think this is better than that.
I would agree. These are better than that issue.
Number 240 is the first time that Havoc appears with the Sentinels flying into the sun. And I think it's going to be hard to go much past that. Like 230 is Uncanny 179. What happened to Kitty? That's that time that Kitty almost gets married again. But this time to Caliban.
Oh no, I don't think we're that high.
No, we're not.
I don't like. I think we're closer to like 236 is Dark Reign, the List, Wolverine 1. You know, like I think we're.
I don't. Yeah.
Maybe even like X-Men 118 to 119, Submergence of Japan.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I would say between. So the problem is that first Havoc story is uneven as all get out because the first half's bad and the second half's good.
Yeah, I agree.
I would I'm gonna let my nostalgia get to me, and I'd say above that, but below Submergence of Japan.
Yeah,
as our new number 242.
Great. All right, that's a perfect place for it.
Well, it's the place that it's at. Hey guys, we did it. We did it again. Wouldn't you know it? We got distracted talking about those good mutants, and you got a little bit of extra episode in this one because we did spend 10 minutes talking about our feelings about Pride of the X-Men. This was a weird episode, but I think it let us talk about things that we haven't talked about really on the show.
It's true.
And I like to think that we talked a lot about the art on this one, Adam.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
I feel like we did.
Yeah. And we'll have to maybe do like X-Men movie adaptations at some point. I don't know if anybody ever requests that.
Well, if someone wants us to, and I will, you'll have no idea how much I want to do this. We'd be talking about the thing that Chris Claremont and Salvador LaRocca did for TV Guide. We'd be talking about the Brian K. Vaughan Wolverine for X-Men 2. We'd be talking about the comic that came in the DVD case for X-Men The Last Stand, where Magneto and Professor X make fun of Stan Lee for like 40 pages.
Deep cuts.
Oh, listen, folks, because I'm obviously excited about this. If you want to hear us do this, all you got to do is go over to patreon.com/battletheatom, throw money our way, $2, and you can make all of my dreams come true. And you get stuff like early episode access at the $5 a month level. You get to help vote on some of the other stories that we cover. If you go at the high levels, you just get to like make requests willy-nilly, really. Bi-yearly and then quarterly at the $25. And if more people get on the $25 a month level, it will break our podcast again. We already had to fix that once. We've only got so much more we can break. But no, this is all good. This is all good. If you can't support us, shoot us a review. We love reviews. I search for them all the time because I desperately want to know what everyone thinks about me at all times because I'm a deeply broken person. Deeply broken. But it's okay. Or just go to XavierFiles.com. That's where you get all the latest, greatest in X-Men news, reviews, articles. There's been some great stuff that's come up recently. I I did write a weird esoteric thing about Sonic the Hedgehog, but it's really about the comic strip Mr. Boop.
Always Sonic the Hedgehog. What the heck is Mr. Boop?
Oh, it's about cartoonist Alec Robbins and his real life marriage to his wife Betty Boop.
Okay, that's a thing.
Adam.
Yes.
It's Mr. Boop.
Oh, you're holding it up. Okay, cool.
Yes, this is collection 1 of Mr. Boop. Collection 2 is somewhere else. I have bonus Boop.
I am learning about the Boop.
Oh, Bud, I'm gonna send you some Twitter links. You're gonna go on a weird thread journey later. Here's a line from one of the comics. Alec is at a bar with his bartender Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic just says, "Well, Alec, I'm a pretty sexually open guy."
Oh no.
I know that, Sonic. And I'm gonna tell you a pretty crazy idea. Thought balloon. Sonic is so sexually open. I'm jealous. I wonder what he's going to say.
Okay, I don't know if you should send this. Yeah.
I think I should. Mr. Boop is...
This sure is a thing.
Mr. Boop is good. Anyway, I wrote about that for the website. You also get a glimpse into my truly cursed Instagram feed, so you can do that if you want. Don't follow my Instagram. I hid my name for a reason. It's for me to know and no one to ever find out about the very bad content that algorithms give me. Adam, where can people find your bad content?
Guys, all the bad content that I create, you can find it at Arthur Stacy on Twitter. Zach, we've got a big one coming next week, man. I'm pumped.
We do. Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
While you slept, the world changed.
Oh my God.
We're doing Hoxpox.
I can't believe
I'm
it.
excited. Guys, Hoxpox is good. Spoiler alert. I've already reread it once. I'm going to read it again this week. I bet it'll continue to rule.
It will.
Like, this is a little bit of recency bias. It also does rule, actually. It's also very good. It was the only pure 12 weeks that I can imagine in the last 4 years. Those were beautiful times where everyone was united in thinking about these weird books that were coming out. And it's a beautiful thing. And we've got to talk about that next week. We also got some weird stories to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are new. Hoxpox is the only new one. We aren't getting too deep into that. But until then, guys, this has been Battle of the Atom. And we hope you survived the experience.